Welcome to this lecture on the regulation of acid-base balance. Today, we are going to explore one of the most critical, life-sustaining systems in human physiology. We will learn exactly how your body maintains its chemical environment to keep you alive. And we will even do some of the math that doctors use to save lives. Let us dive in. To understand why this topic is so important, imagine you are taking care of a delicate, expensive saltwater aquarium filled with exotic fish. If the water becomes even slightly too acidic or too basic, the fish will immediately become sick and might not survive. Your body is exactly like this aquarium, and your cells are the delicate fish swimming in a fluid environment that must be perfectly maintained. The regulation of acid-base balance is your body's automatic, continuous maintenance system. It constantly measures and adjusts the acidity of your blood to ensure your cells can thrive and produce energy. Now that we have our aquarium analogy in mind, let us define what this means physiologically. In human physiology, the regulation of acid-base balance refers to the mechanisms that maintain the hydrogen ion concentration in body fluids within a very narrow, strictly controlled range. We measure this concentration using the pH scale. On this scale, a lower number means the fluid is more acidic, while a higher number means it is more basic or alkaline. For human arterial blood, the normal pH is strictly maintained between 7.35 and 7.45. Even small deviations from this window can be incredibly dangerous. Since keeping the blood pH within that tight window is so critical, how does the body actually do it? The body uses three main lines of defense. First, we have chemical buffers in the blood that act in mere seconds to neutralize excess acids or bases. Second, the respiratory system steps in, adjusting your breathing rate to blow off or retain carbon dioxide within minutes. Finally, the renal system, or your kidneys, makes the most precise adjustments by excreting or retaining specific ions, though this takes hours to days. Together, these systems constantly balance the acids produced by our daily metabolism with the bases available in our body. Before we look at the math behind these systems, we must understand why maintaining this precise balance is absolutely critical for your survival. Almost every biological process in your body depends on it. The proteins and enzymes that do all the heavy lifting in your cells have very specific three-dimensional shapes. These shapes are held together by delicate chemical bonds that are highly sensitive to the surrounding pH. If the environment becomes too acidic or too basic, these bonds break and the proteins lose their shape. When an enzyme loses its shape, it completely stops working, bringing cellular activity to a halt. Building on that idea of protein destruction, let us look at the clinical consequences. If the blood becomes too acidic, a condition called acidosis occurs. Because proteins lose their shape and stop working, this can rapidly lead to a coma or even death. Conversely, if the blood becomes too basic, a condition known as alkalosis, your nervous system becomes dangerously overexcited. This can lead to severe muscle spasms, convulsions, and respiratory arrest. Without our three regulatory systems constantly working in the background, the simple act of digesting food or exercising would produce enough acid to kill us. To truly understand how the lungs and kidneys work together to prevent those dangerous conditions, we must look at the mathematical relationship that governs them. This is the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. It perfectly describes how the body's primary buffer system, the bicarbonate buffer system, determines the pH of the blood. The formula shows that pH equals pKa plus the base 10 logarithm of the bicarbonate concentration divided by 0.03 times the partial pressure of carbon dioxide. The pKa is a constant value of 6.1. The numerator represents bicarbonate, which acts as a base and is controlled by your kidneys. The denominator represents dissolved carbon dioxide, which acts as an acid and is controlled by your lungs. If bicarbonate increases, pH goes up. If carbon dioxide increases, pH goes down. Now that we have our formula, let us calculate the pH of a healthy student's blood to see what a normal baseline looks like. We are given a normal bicarbonate concentration of 24 milliequivalents per liter and a normal carbon dioxide partial pressure of 40 millimeters of mercury. First, we plug these values into the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. Next, we multiply 0.03 by 40 to get 1.2, which is the amount of dissolved carbon dioxide acid. Then, we divide the base, 24, by the acid, 1.2, which gives us exactly 20. The base 10 logarithm of 20 is approximately 1.3. Finally, we add this to our constant of 6.1. The final answer is 7.4, which is the perfect ideal pH for human arterial blood. Before we move on to a clinical scenario, let us pause and look closely at that number 20 we just calculated. Dividing 24 by 1.2 gave us exactly 20. This number is not just a random math result. It represents a crucial physiological ratio in healthy humans. It means there is normally 20 times more bicarbonate base than carbon dioxide acid in the blood. This 20-to-1 ratio is what creates perfect acid-base harmony. As long as the kidneys maintain bicarbonate at 24 and the lungs maintain carbon dioxide at 40, this ratio holds. The pH remains at 7.4 and cellular enzymes function optimally. Now that we understand the healthy baseline, let us see what happens when things go wrong. Imagine a patient who has taken a drug that severely depresses their breathing, a condition called hypoventilation. Because they are breathing very slowly, they cannot exhale enough breath. As a result, carbon dioxide rapidly builds up in their blood. This causes their carbon dioxide partial pressure to rise dangerously from the normal 40 up to 60 millimeters of mercury. Because the kidneys take days to make precise adjustments, they have not had time to react, so the bicarbonate remains at the normal 24. Let us see how this affects the blood chemistry. We will again use the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation to find the new pH for this patient. We plug in the normal bicarbonate level of 24, but this time we use the dangerously high carbon dioxide level of 60. Multiplying 0.03 by 60 gives us a new denominator of 1.8. The amount of dissolved acid has increased. Dividing 24 by 1.8 gives approximately 13.33. Notice how the crucial 20-to-1 ratio has been completely destroyed. The base 10 logarithm of 13.33 is 1.12. Adding this to 6.1 gives a final pH of 7.22. This is well below the safe limit, indicating dangerous respiratory acidosis. To visualize everything we have just calculated, let us look at this diagram. You are seeing a balance scale that represents the acid-base harmony in your blood. On the left side, we have the lungs, which handle respiratory regulation in a matter of minutes by blowing off carbon dioxide gas. On the right side, we have the kidneys, which handle renal regulation over days by retaining or excreting bicarbonate. Above the scale is the reversible chemical equation connecting these two sides. If the lungs fail and carbon dioxide builds up, the scale tips to the left, causing acidosis. just like in our last example. If the kidneys retain too much base, the scale tips to the right, causing alkalosis. We have covered a lot of ground today, so let us summarize the most important ideas. First, the regulation of acid-base balance is a beautiful, tireless partnership between your blood buffers, your lungs, and your kidneys. Second, these systems work together to keep your blood pH strictly between 7.35 and 7.45. Third, as we saw with the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, this is achieved by managing the delicate ratio of bicarbonate base to carbon dioxide acid, ideally keeping it at 20:1. Understanding this concept allows medical professionals to save lives by simply looking at a patient's breathing and blood chemistry. You now have a solid foundation in one of the body's most vital, life-sustaining systems.